Hello and welcome to Ruggles Round Up. It's the portion of our Elevated Mission podcast where we talk about all things sports. We're super excited to bring this episode to you. And that was a freezing matchup. I mean, as Miami nowhere prepared to be able to win that football game in that weather conditions. I think the arrival at the stadium told the entire story. Like, Tua arrives with a big parka on and all bundled up and just looking like about to enter a winter storm. And Patrick Mahomes shows up in a windbreaker and a T-shirt. And you go, okay, this is going to be a long day for the Dolphins.
Yeah, it was an interesting game for that Dolphins team as the Dolphins continued to kind of show again what is their limitations. And if you can cover the middle of the field, Tua's never going to beat you over on the sideline. He's not going to hit those 30-yard down the field, hit the guy over the shoulder down the sideline passes. He just doesn't have the arm for it, and he doesn't hit it consistent enough to really worry about those kinds of passes. And so if you can throw any kind of coverage in those middles, like where the Chiefs have a decent linebacker core right there that plays some decent football. If you have a good linebacker core, you can limit that Dolphins team due to the limitations of Tua Tagovailoa and the fact that he can't get it to those outside routes as they're just trying to attack those linebackers so consistently with those jet sweeps, misdirections, and creating openings over the middle.
Due to stats and just being a good guy, we all want Tua to be a good quarterback, and I just think he's okay. I mean, and I think when you put him in those, cold weather conditions where all of a sudden grip and arm strength becomes super important, he's just not going to be able to get it done. So unless the Dolphins can get home playoff advantage or play only dome teams throughout the entirety of the playoffs, he just is not going to be able to perform in a way that the Dolphins can reach their ultimate goal, and that's to win the Super Bowl. I was watching Tua's passes consistently go high. They sailed high throughout that entire game, and it just was he couldn't get the flick of the wrist. He couldn't get the grip that he needed to get on that football. Those footballs in that kind of conditions are super hard. An NFL ball is already a ginormous football, and he's just not going to be able to get the job done, I don't believe, in those conditions. So, hey, Dolphins, here's your task. Stay with Tua, and you're going to have to win more games. You better be the number one seed every single year, because the Super Bowl is usually played in a warm weather place. I mean, I think one time they went outside of that, but other than that, they play it in a warm weather place. And sure, if you've got home field advantage, Tua may be able to get the job done. But if you need a big hand, strong arm quarterback because you're going to have to go into some cold weather situations, Tua is just not your guy.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting spot to be at because also, what does that system look like with something different than a Tua type? Because I think that Mike McDaniels is one of the smarter offensive coordinators within the league. You throw him a guy that can run the football a little bit, that can actually go and do some play action and then take off across the other sideline. I think it would be an interesting offense to watch. I would love to see what he could do if he had. I mean, obviously there's only one Lamar Jackson, but a Lamar Jackson type guy to be able to run that system with all those jet sweeps, misdirections, and then if the quarterback had the threat to run as well, it would be a super interesting system. But I think like you said, Tua is just not at the level to be able to hit enough passes to be that great quarterback for him. I mean, there's Nick Saban, the week he retires, look really, really good as an NFL coach as we watch all of his quarterbacks over the last 3 stints that looked amazing in college do really poor over this past season with Mac Jones, Jalen Hurts, and Tua Tagovailoa all kind of stinking it up. Tua had a pretty decent season, but ended up stinking it up in this last playoff game.
Yeah, I mean, again, how much is McDaniel's system and how much is Tua playing well at the position? And so I think there's a lot of questions about that out there, and in the Eagles, boy, you just mentioned that with Hurts. And I'll just tell you, that looks like things just looked bad all season long. They lose their OC. He becomes a head coach over at the Colts, and now they have to figure it out without him. You would think an offensive-minded coach at the helm, they would have been able to do that. That did not look good. They seemed to get worse as the season went along, and they got further away from their old OC. And so, the Eagles got to figure some things out. I think Jalen Hurts did play hurt all year. It just appeared to me that he looked like he was, not the same Jalen Hurts. But that's a challenge, and we get the announcement that Kelsey calls it quits after that loss, the wild card. So now they got to find the kind of the anchor to that offensive line. I'm sure they're going to be fine. It's a great offensive line. But, they got to figure some things out there at the Eagles. Yeah, and I think the Dolphins, if they got that athletic quarterback, it's a bargain basement way to do that. We got J.J. McCarthy declaring for the draft. I think if they can pick him up, in like a second round or a third round and put him into that system, I agree with you. I think he could look really nice if you run some RPOs, you do some things with JJ that he could kind of fit that bill. And he's had to play in cold weather situations. Let's face it, Tua's from Hawaii. He played at Alabama and in the SEC. And then now he's played at Miami. He's never had to do it in the cold weather. J.J. McCarthy, a little different story up there in Michigan. And so I think that maybe that's a nice little fit for the Dolphins.
Okay, this is my perfect fit for the Dolphins.
Okay.
It has to be Michael Penix Jr. You got a guy that went up to Washington, played some cold weather snaps up there in Washington, knows what it's like to play some weather that's it's snowing while you're playing up there in Oregon or whatever it is, and so you learn how to play in those cold weather snaps. But he's from the Tampa area, he's from Florida, and so he can go out there over to Miami. Now it is a pretty long drive to Miami, actually, even though it's in the same state. It's still, though, Florida guy, he's going to get a huge fandom base there. And what has he been doing at Washington since he got there? Whipping those deep balls all across the field to very talented, speedy wideouts. What do the Dolphins have? Very talented, speedy wideouts all over the field that get open on deep balls. And so I think Michael Penix Jr., with the play style, it seems like that might be a perfect landing spot, not only for the Dolphins to get a good quarterback, but probably a perfect landing spot for a Michael Penix Jr. as well.
Yeah, they're going to have to go early, I think, in the draft to get him. He's going to go in the first half of the first round, I believe.
You think so?
I do. I think he will. I think there's going to be a little bit of run at the quarterback. Huh?
You think there's going to be 4 in the first half of the draft?
I think so. That's where I think it's going. I just think these are hot enough quarterbacks. There's enough buzz around these guys. Unless someone has a really awful combine, a bad pro day, I think all 4 of these guys end up going off the board in the first half of the first round. And then we're going to go a second half of the first round is going to be quarterbackless. And then we'll start seeing some more quarterbacks come off in the second and third rounds. But that's my prediction. Quarterback too important in this league. And there's too much talent in this draft class to not see these quarterbacks go. You never know what's going to happen on draft day, but that's just my prediction at this moment. I'm going to leave a reservation to be able to change that opinion later on. I think that Penix, though, he's not as mobile as what I felt like you were saying that you were wanting to see, and kind of being able to get that extra run guy into that. And he's had injury problems when he has ran. So I think Penix is going to be a pocket guy. He's going to be that style and only run out when he has to, which I think he could be very successful. They already got that with Tua. I think he probably could be a better version of Tua. He's definitely got the stronger arm. He's got the bigger hands. And he has, like you said, played in the cold before, and we've seen it get done. I saw him throw accurate footballs in a rain game. And so they're going to have to get some good protection for him because he seems to be a little bit slower of a reader of the defense, getting the ball out. And when Michigan got pressure in his face, he threw bad balls. Like, he was so accurate for all season long, even his junior season. And then Michigan was able to get him to not throw accurate footballs. It looked totally different than it looked at any other game. And so he's going to have good protection up front by that Dolphins offensive line if he was there. But, I mean, sure, that would be a great matchup, I think. If they could get Michael Penix, that would be fun to watch for sure.
Oh, for sure. I think whoever decides to be the first one to take a defensive player in this draft is going to be living a really good life. As I think that the top defensive player in the draft may drop out of the top 10 in this upcoming draft, just because of how many people are just solely focused on the offense. But super fun stuff. Dolphins are a fun team to project because they have so much talent across the board and have a really quick way of fixing this team to become a Super Bowl contender in just next year.
Well, thank you for watching and listening to Ruggles Round Up on the Elevated Mission podcast. Make sure if you're on YouTube, you click the subscribe and you click the like button. We love that you're out there listening and watching us talk about all things sports. We'll see you next time.